Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Retail Shenanigans. This is Retail Shenanigans episode 13. Very happy that we've made it this far. We've had a great run. I had a lot of fun. Yesterday's episode was so much fun catching up with my buddy Tom. And today I have as a guest an old friend and coworker of mine, Erica. Erica, how are you today?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm good. Got the weekend off, decided to cram as many of these in this weekend as I can. So, if cancellations or if things come up, I can, continue trying to upload one every day. Um, you know, Meanwhile, still working full time during the day. So, very, very interesting.
Fun.
Most definitely. And how are things on your end? You guys going stir crazy?
A little bit. Um, my husband got wrongfully terminated
Oh,
on self
Jesus.
quarantine. Yeah, for a potential lung issue, but we're blessed that he is healthy.
Right.
Um, you only get one set of lungs. We can find a new job. So,
No, I agree, but I didn't think you could get fired because of self quarantining. That's odd.
we didn't either, but it's okay. It opened up a new door that's a much better fit. So we're just, and now I don't have to work full time. I'm now partially disabled through the VA.
Hmm.
So we're thankful that our income, at least on my end, hasn't been touched. So we had the ability to just kind of take our time and find another good, um, suitable place for him to work. So it worked out for the best in the end.
Well, and honestly, that's all that matters. As long as you guys are
Yeah.
happy and everything's set on your end, then I couldn't be happier for you guys.
Thank you.
Of course. And I think that's a great way to get into our first leg of the conversation here, which
Mhm.
is how long have you worked in retail? Or did you, if
Um,
you are no longer?
I'm no longer in retail,
Uh
which is awesome.
huh.
I worked food retail and store retail. But
Hmm.
I think I started working retail when I was 17 or 18,
Okay.
and then up until like 4 years ago, 3 years ago, something like that. three
Okay.
years ago, I don't know. I lost track at this point. My last full time retail job was with you,
Oh,
so
okay.
however
Well,
long ago that was.
oof, that was a while ago. Hell,
Yeah,
that
I was like,
was that was Dollar General, so that was
yeah, and
easily 5 years ago, I think.
yeah. See, that's what I thought. Yeah, something like
Oof.
that.
Mm. Well,
Yeah.
I'm not saying I am happy for you, but also I'm not saying I'm not jealous. Does that make sense? Because don't get me wrong, I
Yes.
love my job, but it's definitely always interesting to see where people go to after they leave retail or what they, whatever paths they end up
Yeah,
taking.
I completely did a new route. Like I now work for, I'm an officer at our local VFW.
That's awesome.
I'm a quartermaster, so it's pretty much an accountant without the awesome paycheck. And
Oh, not so
and
awesome.
I'm also a tax preparer,
Okay.
for Jackson Hewitt. So it's a completely different type of customer service vibe.
Right.
And with the Post being a nonprofit, it's more community based than
Right.
really
Most definitely.
customer. So it's kind of cool. I like it. I like the shift. I actually had the ability to go back to school. I'm in school for human resource management, so I might end up back in retail with that degree.
Right.
But but on a better side of things, in my opinion, I've met a lot of HR people
Yeah.
that don't do their job. I want to stop that and actually be an HR person that actually gives human the resources. It's in the damn title.
Right. And
So
oh my God, I can't even tell you how many human resources people I've met where they don't even care. They're just looking for a reason to go in and fire somebody.
right, and that's what happened with my husband. His HR manager, I don't know how much I'm allowed to legally discuss.
No worries. I don't want you. Don't get in trouble.
But on the other hand, he went to his HR manager for help, and she spread it around the whole plant. Not once,
Jesus.
not twice, but three times. So, it,
That's not cool.
for his safety, he really couldn't have gone back,
Right.
personally, in my opinion, because of she took his story and twisted it and put it out there. So I actually immediately changed my major. I was in accounting. I wasn't
Hmm.
doing that well, not going to lie. Accounting in the real world versus accounting in school is really different. Um, so I decided, I'm like, I'm going to do HR, and this is the exact reason why. That's what happened to him.
Yeah, that's crazy, especially someone who works in HR to be spreading stories around like that. I mean, that's like the
Yeah,
exact opposite of what your job is.
exactly. Yeah, she's awful.
That's terrible. Okay, so seeing as we worked for as little bit of a time it was when you were at Dollar General with me, how long did you work for Dollar General?
Um, I think like three going on 4 years.
Okay.
And you were right at the end of my quote unquote career
Right.
time with Dollar General. I was at the fuck it point when I met
Right.
you, so I appreciated that you even kept in contact with me because I probably wasn't the best ASM.
Well,
Uh, because I've been burned by the company too many times, and I heard you say in your past episodes, like, people don't quit companies, they quit managers.
yes.
You were very, very awesome to work with. You actually let me hang on a little bit longer.
Well, I really
um,
appreciate that. Thank you.
yeah, I was just like, but that kind of in itself really was, an awful company if you were in management.
Oh my
Lower
God.
level cashiers and stuff, they probably loved their job, and I'm glad they stuck through it. But nope,
Yeah.
you
I
know.
don't I know. I don't miss it. I mean, getting in there at first, like there was just so much in the like in your intro, like in your interviews, and especially just from my experience, like with my interviews with the district manager and things I was told and that I wasn't told. There was a lot of false information and like
Oh
just
yeah,
whatever they could say to get you in the door, just so they
yeah.
could have you run the store and then just like abandon you, like, and then when you
Yeah.
and you ask for
That's what
help
happened to me
and
exactly.
you get laughed at, like, well, you need
Hmm.
to take care of it. Well, I understand that, but when your training process is 1 week long and you're forced to work 6 days a week, and 5 of those days you're at a training store, and then the sixth day you're in your store, I really don't see that as much of a training.
No. And what happened with me, I started at the York store, one of the York stores up
Hmm.
in um, right off of 83.
Okay.
And they were like, and I was just hungry to get assistant manager on my resume. I'm like, I don't
Right.
care what I have to do. I want people to take me seriously. I'm 20 some years old, and I'm a good fucking worker, and I deserve some credit. That's pretty much why I accepted the job. I'm like, I don't know anything about management, but I'm about to learn.
Right.
Way to crash course, right? So I got hired in by a store manager who was trying to manage two stores at the time. She was awesome. I'm not going to put her name out there because I'm not
Right.
sure if she would want me to. But she made it worthwhile. She did as much as she could for me, and I know she could. She actually got to the point where the district manager's like, you cannot go in there and help Erica anymore. You have to stay at your store. Because I was actually supposed to get a store manager by the end of the week.
Hmm.
Yeah, right. I ran that store into the ground in 2 weeks because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Of course,
Right.
I ran it into the ground in 2 weeks. First of all, I was already there. I just dug it a little bit deeper, poured some mud on it, covered
Hmm.
us, buried us, and I would say I'm a relatively intelligent person. Like, it has nothing to do with smarts or abilities. If you don't have a good team or enough people, or people show up, or I was working open to closes, I was taking deposits probably when I shouldn't have, you know, things of that nature, just to kind of get by, keep the doors open, and try and, I was taking completely advantage of my stock guy, not realizing how much a manager needed to get it in there and do the rolltainers, because I just wasn't really told that that was a thing. I thought I had to worry about customers and, you know, the office. So I think they thought I was lazy and unproductive. It's just like I didn't realize how essential the manager was at the time.
Oh, 100%. And as speaking from, the actual store manager standpoint, when you go into, when they're training you, they send you to a store that's not as like not so busy or whatever, and
Right.
they got maybe 5 or 6 rolltainers on their truck, and then, oh well, we're gonna put you in our busiest store, and they get 22 to 26 rolltainers a week, and they want you to have it done in less than a day is a little
Yeah.
ridiculous. Which,
Outrageous.
yeah, and for any of you listening who don't know what a rolltainer is or don't know have any experience with that, a rolltainer is a big metal cage that's like a big cube, like a giant rectangle that stands up in the air and it rolls around, and it's built, and it's supposed to, the purpose of it is that there have product on it that's all like stuff that goes together so that you can roll it onto the floor, get it put away, and get it out and get another one out. Well, unfortunately, what it would turn into is maybe one or two were like that, but then it was, oh well, we have one or two items here, we're going to throw it in this rolltainer, and it's going to be items that go on opposite ends of the store,
Hmm.
and it's just
And they had a method. They said you had to do X amount of rolltainers in X amount of hours, and
Yes.
very feasible if you're not running to the cash register every 5 minutes dealing with a
Correct.
customer or a change request or an override, and
Yep.
it could absolutely be done if the store was closed.
Or if you
You
were
know,
allowed to be properly staffed.
absolutely, yeah. So it was absolutely doable, and some
Hmm.
people work their asses off and they get it done. And before I landed at your store, I was actually a traveling manager. They took me all around the districts. I did remodels.
Hmm.
I went to different stores that were backed up on stock and like had rolltainers piling out of the stock room.
Right.
And how I landed at your store was, oh shit, the manager quit. Do you want to hang around for a while till we get the new store manager trained? Who was you? And I was like, sure. So I kind of just did that. I worked at one store for 6 weeks, one store for a week, another store for two. Like, it was very sporadic. But in my home store, my payroll store was Dover.
Right.
And I loved that store because my manager, Tammy, I think she was awesome. I know she wouldn't mind me throwing her name out there. Um, People had other things to say about her, but she really made my life there as comfortable as possible, knowing that we worked for the company we did.
Right.
So I appreciated her.
Right. And a lot of times I think that's what it comes to. You might
Yeah,
be, it doesn't matter what's happening, but if like the store is like a store that's super busy or it's in an area where it's like you just get terrible customers all the time, it definitely helps to have a
yeah,
good boss, like someone who
yeah,
definitely shows you that they have your back. And that's one thing I've always strived for, is to show my people like, hey, it's something one of my mentors always taught me. It's, be a servant leader. Like, I would never, and I mean, I
yeah,
know you can attest to this, I would never ask anybody to do something I wouldn't do. I mean,
right,
how many times was there our bathrooms destroyed, and instead of asking any of you guys to do it, I was like, okay, I'll go clean it, and I would glove up and
yeah,
go sanitize and scrub down the bathrooms, which that's my
yeah,
job. I know plenty of people who are like, oh, I'm a manager now, all that stuff's below me. Like, are you serious? Like,
right,
how are you
yeah,
gonna have
no.
good? How you gonna have your people's trust if you refuse to do things that you're requiring them to do?
Oh yeah, and I come from a military background. If you don't
Right.
lead by example, we spit on you.
Most
Period.
definitely. And thank you.
Like, you're not going to get the respect of your troops if you're just going to point and direct and then go sit in your air conditioned office. Absolutely not.
Right.
You
And
know.
yeah, it's 100% understandable. Both of my parents were military, and you just
Oh,
grew
so
up
you
with
know.
that. Oh, 100%.
Hmm.
So you definitely grow
Military
up.
parents are worse than military itself. I swear. I look at my stepdaughter. I'm like, don't make drill sergeant mommy come out today. Just don't do
Right.
it.
Oh,
She's not nice. No one likes her. Just do it for a nice mom.
I mean,
Like,
people barely like regular Erica, so.
exactly. Now you want me bitching? Good luck on you. Just saying.
Okay, so I'm glad, even though it's been a long time since we've really chatted, I'm glad that we're still able to, even though we only worked together for a little bit, that we're still able to laugh and have a good time. And I'm very
Yeah,
grateful to have
absolutely.
you on the show. Um,
Thanks.
so that definitely leads me into my next question, which is, I know you stated where all of you worked. So what was your very first retail job then? Was it Dollar General or was it something before that?
No, actually, it was Lowe's.
Okay.
I was a cashier at Lowe's
Wow. Okay.
right before I deployed, and then when I came home from deployment, I ended up a cashier at Home Depot.
Okay.
So I was kind of the home improvement land for a long time.
All right. Now, I've heard a lot of things about people who work at like Lowe's and Home Depot, like where
Hmm.
they're cashiers, and maybe you can kind of clear some of that up for me. Is it true that like your cashiers, like, so, I feel like I'm saying that a lot, but so you have your cashier area all in the front of the store, so and
Yep.
that's where your cashiers are, and that the cashiers
Hmm.
pretty much can't leave there, and then there's like a head cashier who's
Yep.
like a shift supervisor or like
Hmm.
a I don't want to say like a department manager. Maybe that's what's the best way to put it. Like there was like a department
It's like a
manager.
department supervisor. Yeah,
Okay.
they're not quite supervisor or manager on payroll, but they do get more. They are our leader, and they coordinate and organize the day,
Okay.
with like organizing breaks and stuff. Yeah, it's
Right.
like a line.
So are they the ones too that are like, are they authorized to do overrides and things of that nature? Or,
Yes.
okay, cool.
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to clear that up because I've heard a lot.
Mhm.
Like, you know what I mean? Just some different things I've heard about them, and I tell you,
Mhm.
jobs like that. I mean, if that's what you want to do and you just want to be a cashier, go for it. But I've never been the person like, oh, I can't move from here. Man, my day's gonna suck.
Well, if you have a good head cashier,
Hmm.
and someone who's willing to listen to you, which I absolutely did at my Depot store. I absolutely did not at Lowe's.
Okay.
Now, first of all, I worked at a Lowe's in Ohio, and I didn't stay long enough to really make many connections. And like I said, I did my drill weekends, and then I deployed for a year or so, and I always asked to go outside and garden, so then you're pretty detached from everybody else.
Okay.
Because there's only 2 garden registers, and I even went out in Christmas time for the tree cutting. So a lot of times I was by myself.
Right.
And then Home Depot, though, I stayed long enough to establish a lot of relationships, and like we had one head cashier. She knew where everybody was comfortable, and she would place people intentionally. Like, she knows a lot about garden stuff. Why don't we put her at the garden register? Instead of like a girl who actually knows something about flowers. Put her out there. Don't put her in lumber. That's stupid. Because then you're just calling and bothering employees to find something that she could have already known. So if you know where the people are comfortable, and you rotate the brakes properly, it's not that bad. It really isn't. And I loved my Home Depot store. And so did actually, that's where I met my husband.
Awesome.
He was the cute guy in gardens. I wanted to be a garden cashier, and then they find out I was just out there to stare at him, so then they pulled me back in, but it didn't matter. It didn't keep us apart anyway, and here we are with a baby years later. So, it is what it is. But we were professional at work, and even my store manager to this day would be like, I thought that was a thing, but I wasn't quite sure. I just saw you leaving and coming together, but thank you for being professional. And we both were really adamant about that. And then my roommate worked for the company that brought in the flowers. So like I was just kind of in that garden world, so they kept me out there quite a bit, and as long as me and Sam were behaving ourselves.
Well, there you go. Well,
but I love that store. I wish I never had to leave there. That was my favorite job.
Dude, that's awesome, and
hands down.
That's awesome that you're able to say that, because I know there's a lot of people like walking around, like, and some people I've asked, what's your favorite job, and they've always, like, some people have replied that they've never had one, and I'm like, that's terrible. Like for you to have
even
that
my
much...
best friend I talk to like all the time, Mikey. Like I talk to him almost daily. He still works out there in that garden center in Baltimore.
That's awesome.
Yeah, like there's just such a great group.
Oh yeah, and that's awesome. I mean, and that's the fact that that you had that good of a group and that good of a leader that worked with people to make sure that everything was good. That's 100% what makes the difference. So thank you. I really appreciate you sharing that with us.
Yeah, no problem.
So then that really moves to the next part, which is then we were actually kind of just talking about that a little bit. So if you could think back, what would you say is your absolute best memory of working retail?
So it wasn't actually at the store, but
Okay.
Home Depot does a lot of community work.
All right.
And we were working with, and my Depoters are going to beat my butt that I can't remember what the program was called, but we pretty much did the landscaping and installing backyard furniture and stuff like that for, it's like a Homes for Heroes. Like it was for a quadriplegic veteran. He was in a chair. Really nice guy. Pretty much the Home Depot Foundation. Wow, that's really obvious. They built him a home, and our and our crew went in and did like all the landscaping side of it. And I think there was only like 10 of us from the store, and it was just a really humbling experience. And like we weren't on payroll. We just came together, put on our Depot shirts, and built this veteran a home because it was the right thing to do. And, we went into my local VFW at the time, and we, like, painted. And I think they had some water damage we helped repair. And, like, they were just so active in the community. And, like, all of those team events that I did were definitely my best memories linked to retail. For sure.
Dude, that's absolutely amazing. And the fact that, I understand you said that you weren't on payroll, which, that's, no biggie. But the fact that you still went out there and you still put forth that effort and you guys came together as a team and was able to help, that's just a lot of places.
People say what they will about, like, the day-to-day life at those types of stores, but Home Depot, like, as a company is amazing. Like, my one roommate had to leave out, had to move out of our apartment, and I couldn't pay my bills. Like, my lights were off. I was showering between Home Depot and Wawa and my boyfriend's house because Wawa was my overnight job. Like, I was literally under check to check. And the Home Depot fund paid for a whole month of my expenses to allow me to catch up. And I was a part-time cashier. It's not even like I was in management. I didn't even give them 40 hours of my week. They just took care of me when I applied for it because they can. And that's something that employees actually pay a certain percentage of their check into voluntarily. And then you help different people throughout Home Depot nationwide that need assistance like that. And they really saved my ass. So that's taking care of your people. That's why I'm like, I hands down my favorite job.
Dude, that's awesome. And the fact
Yeah.
that the company provides that, there are companies out
Mhm.
there that don't. Like, yeah, there's your 401k, or there's like you can pay
Yep.
into like accident insurance or whatever they want to call it. But like a
Mhm.
program there that you can apply for and get if you go on hard times,
Yeah.
that is absolutely hands down fantastic. So definitely
Yeah.
a big shout out to Lowe's for caring for their
For
people,
Home
or Home
Depot.
Depot. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Depot
It's okay.
for caring
They
for
are a
their
little
people.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
so then let's boomerang it a little bit and let's bring it back around to the opposite side of that then. So what would you say
Mhm.
your absolute worst memory of retail was then?
Um, Food retail, like I said, I worked for a Wawa,
Okay.
and it was overnight in Baltimore preparing food for drunk people.
Yeah.
I have a million stories.
Oh boy.
Um, but but depending on, I had a team lead, and he would love if I shouted out my team lead or shift manager, Rick,
Okay.
overnight. Oh my gosh, he made everything so fun. I mean, there was nights that I was crying in the bathroom at that job. The whole job was a mess, in my opinion, for me. I
Right.
could not handle it,
Okay.
and he really stuck through, encouraging me. I mean, but I just, I told you I was literally showering between their Home Depot and my boyfriend's house with my lights off. So of course I couldn't handle a retail midnight job with drunk people screaming at me about their fucking sandwich. Like
Right.
I couldn't handle it. So I really appreciate Rick encouraging me and keeping things light over the radio, and he would pop on and talk about The Walking Dead during the slow times and stuff like that, and just things just to keep us going. But on the flip side of that, and she's still a friend of mine, I had another manager, I won't say her name, that kind of talked to me like I was a child, and that was my worst retail experience ever, was just the way my manager treated me on shift at an already difficult job where we're all in this together.
Yes.
um, I don't have a lot of bad customer things that I hang on to. That's just not how I am. I'm like, it's my job. In 1 year, brush it off my shoulders.
Right.
That's the military in me. You go do your mission. You're done. So I don't hang on to experiences like that. I mean, I've had quite a few people screaming at me at Dollar General about a fucking coupon.
Oh my
I have all
god.
of those. Yeah, I have all of those experiences. But what really made me most upset is when management wants to treat you like shit when you're in the same shit pile together.
No, I totally agree. And
Yeah.
it's definitely a sombering experience to hear somebody that was equally not only not having a good time in their job, but their home life was, not everything wasn't together as well. Which I'm not saying that as like something negative to you. It's just
Right.
definitely like having all that shit going on in your personal life where you said you were showering between shifts, your apartment didn't have the power on, and you were still
Mm.
trying your best to pay your bills and go to work and make the best of it. So it was definitely awesome that you had a manager, or at least a supervisor, whatever he was, your boss
Mm.
at that shift, to actually show that he cares about you and that he's going to
Yeah.
go and, try to make your night a little better, because 100% we're all humans and we're never ever
Mm.
perfect. Like I get that. Nobody is ever going to be fucking perfect. And it could have just been so easy for somebody to just be like, well, you need to get out of the bathroom, stop crying, put your big girl pants on, and get your work done. Like I can
Mm.
only imagine how much that would have just added to everything. You understand what I'm
I
saying?
would
Like,
have, yeah, I would have. I almost walked out on the other manager multiple times, and Rick's the one who always pulls me back. But eventually, I chose myself,
mhm.
and I'm like, money comes and goes. I will figure it out, but I will not come here every other shift and be treated like that. And I literally was like, within 2 years of coming back from my deployment,
Yeah.
and my father just died. My finances were a mess. I was probably the worst version of myself I'd ever been. And I'm gonna come in here, and you, as another, yeah, you're my manager, but you're another human being, to just rip me down even further about some fucking condiments. Like, fuck
Right.
you. I left.
To like
You
just
know.
take a giant shit on you and add to the
Oh
pile.
yeah. Yeah, and I don't think it was malicious and intentional. She just was just as stressed as everybody else trying to get everything done. She had, as my, and this was previous to my experience as a manager, first of
Mm-hmm.
all, at Dollar General, which I'm going to say that because once you get into management, you don't realize the pressure put on them.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I may or may have not treated my employees like, not, I don't think like trash, because I generally don't do that to people. It's not my vibe. But I may or may not have overlooked something crucial, or may or may not have looked at someone's body language or what they were trying to tell me just to get the job done.
Right.
I've tended to be like really militant and put the blinders on, and forget to be human first. So maybe she was going through the same thing. So like over time, I've forgiven her.
Right.
I don't hang on to things like that, but I didn't realize the pressure that they get too. So it wasn't personal. I'm very aware of that. That's why I'm able to talk about it, not be terribly pissy. You know what I mean? Like,
No, 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 100%. I definitely am a firm believer in the shit does roll downhill. 100%.
absolutely.
There's no way else to put it. But there is a difference between being the person that just, oh, well, then I'm just going to shovel the shit on the person below me, or if I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to talk to my people and explain to them the situation, see what's going on, and see how we can try to improve. Don't get me wrong, we
Mm-hmm.
all have our moments where, and even myself, we have times where we'll walk in and we might just been having a bad day or a bad evening, or the day was just completely shot or whatever, and then this isn't done, truck's not done, the
Mm-hmm.
store could be a mess, but and just snap, not snap out, but just be like, what the fuck, like,
Mm-hmm.
what could you have possibly done? But then you also have to,
Mm-hmm.
like, give yourself that time to walk away, drink a cup of coffee, smoke a cigarette, do whatever it is you got to do to, just unwind for a minute and just realize that, we're all people and people make mistakes. Now, with that being
Yeah.
said, there are people that are just total fuck ups and don't do their job. And sometimes
Right.
you have to be that person. Like, and I think
Right.
that's what's the
Absolutely.
hardest for me is I want to give everybody chances. But once I realize,
Mm-hmm.
like, when people are just, for lack of a better word, just a straight up fuck up, then nope, nope.
Mm-hmm.
Then the sympathy's
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah. I think you and I had a general understanding because I was a hit or miss employee. I stand by I was really great for customer service,
Hmm.
and I was really great when it came to accountability for tills and stuff like that. But
Hmm.
especially in your store, I didn't give a fuck about that truck, and I know you knew that. And and so I'm surprised you wanted to talk to me at all because I probably made your life a lot harder. And it's funny because if you talk to other Dollar General employees, of like, wow, Erica worked her ass off. So like I said, I was just at the point of the fuck it
Hmm.
part once I got to you. So I'm surprised you even ended up liking me at the end of this. So I appreciate you realizing I'm human and I
Oh, most
probably have gone
definitely.
through some shit to make me that way. you know,
Oh
uh,
yeah.
my, and I didn't realize I was actually battling a medical issue. I had severe plantar fasciitis.
Hmm.
I had scoliosis in the military. I came home 2 inches shorter when I
Wow.
left for Afghanistan, and it actually gave me hip dysplasia. So I literally would leave their store and crawl into my house when I was done driving because my feet hurt so bad.
Right.
So a lot of times I just wanted to sit in the office or even sit down and put like the the health and beauty shit away because it was small. So at least I'm
Yeah.
doing something, but I'm
Oh
not
man.
lifting a lot. But I probably didn't help you guys a lot in that store. I really didn't, and
Well, there definitely were some days where it was like, okay, I'm gonna finally, I came in at 5 o'clock. It's 8 o'clock. I'm gonna finally, 8 o'clock at night. I'm gonna
yeah,
finally, go home, get some rest, and Erica, I'll be in tomorrow morning. Just, or even if it wasn't tomorrow morning, it was like, I'll be in. I'm off tomorrow, but I'll be in the next day. Just, make sure the truck's done. You know, yada yada, whatever. Come in,
truck was
store
never done.
truck wasn't done, but the store would look great. Like the
Thanks.
customers would be happy. It would be
Yeah.
recovered, stuff put away. But then you're like, okay,
But then
cool,
you're left to do it.
right,
Yeah,
exactly.
I did absolutely lay it in your lap. That's why I'm just like, I feel so bad. I'm like, that Ray guy is so nice. And he probably thinks I'm such an asshole. And it's like, I wasn't even doing it to you. I was doing it to Dollar General. I was so
Right.
mad at them. We actually ended up, I ended up speaking with a lawyer
Oh,
about a lot of the
jeez.
shit that they made the managers do. I actually won, and I'm not allowed to discuss what I won because I won.
Okay.
I'll leave it there. But
Okay.
I did put out like if I had kept better notes, so here's
Right.
anybody who worked for Dollar General that is listening. If you kept better notes of the times you worked through your lunches,
Mm.
or you were asked to take bank
Yes.
deposits off the clock or on your way home when you were already clocked out, keep track of those things. They might help you in the future, nudge, nudge, wink, wink,
Yeah.
because I would have ended up better off if I had documented those things. I kind of got like a hush up, like a, here you go,
Hmm.
don't talk about it. I'm like, okay, so I was like, okay, thanks, bye, and I bolted. But there's a lot of that going on in that company, you know,
Yeah. I
and I was
def
already at that point when I met you.
Yeah, and that's the shitty thing. Like, I definitely remember having conversations with people about that. And actually,
Yeah,
I wholeheartedly remember having a talk with you and
yeah.
the other assistant that I had at the time, and telling them, do not take the deposit off the clock.
You were the only, no, I'm sorry. You were one of two that told me, that didn't say, do what you got to do and kind of walk away.
Nope.
You were one of two. So the other ones were like, hey, I need this done, but you know, but even if it's, because a lot of people didn't want to pay their employee to drive down the road,
Right.
come back, clock out, and go home. And then a lot of employees are like, no, I got off at 4.
Right.
My person coming in after me didn't get here till 4:30. By the time I go do your bank run, come back, go back through that traffic again, I'm not getting home till 6. And a
Correct.
lot of people would just be like, fuck it, I'll just take it off the clock. That happened very often,
Yeah. And I was not
and
okay with that.
that's not supposed to. Yeah, because a lot of people didn't schedule that hour overlay. You did. You
Oh
did
yeah.
very well. But a lot of managers did not schedule that hour overlay for that to happen. So
Well, I just had the I don't even say the knowledge, but I had the the ability to think ahead and look like, okay, yeah, the second shift might come in at 2 or 4 o'clock or whatever it is, but that doesn't mean like everything's good to go. People are
right.
human. There could be traffic. You
Hmm.
get in, there could be a huge giant line. I'm not just gonna, oh,
Hmm.
okay, count your register, get off with it. But meanwhile, there's a line here.
Right.
No, it's going to be, yes, you might be scheduled until 4, but there's a giant line. You got to help us
Hmm.
finish checking out. Then we'll go count your register
Hmm.
and get you out of here. 100%.
Hmm.
I've never been a believer in and it's super illegal trying to have people do shit off the clock. And
Oh yeah, and I mean that means I have, how many, 2 to 4 or 2 to 6 thousand on an average
right.
in my purse, in my
Mm-hmm.
personal vehicle,
Yep.
with no accountability for it.
Well,
Are
and
you
if,
asking to get robbed?
right. And then at that point, if something happens to you, then it's, oh, well, you were doing it off the clock, so we're not going to pay for your medical bills.
Right. Yeah, 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 and God forbid, yeah, exactly. We get in an accident with that cash,
Right.
and our car is totaled, and the bag's stuck in our totaled car in an impound somewhere because you just woke up in the hospital. I know that's really dramatic, but it could happen.
Oh, wholeheartedly. That's why I
People
never.
don't.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, yeah. You were actually one of my favorite managers, but I was already at the fuck it point. So sorry I bailed on you.
That's okay. I appreciate you saying that. And I try to, I don't. Again, a lot of people will say, "Oh, well, you're just a kiss ass to your people." No, I try to make my people feel important and know that I'm there for them.
Yeah.
So that kind of leads me to my next part of the podcast, which is really, so since you no longer work in retail and you moved on with your life and you're in a different stage of what you're doing. So really, my question for you is, would you ever go back to work retail again? Let's just say, even if it was like, would you ever go back? And if not, would you go back if it was all you could do to provide for your family? How about that?
Ironically, I would go back.
Okay.
Um, it's a comfortable, cozy feeling. Um, but all my experience in retail, I now have a family. I did not have permanency with
Yeah.
people waiting for me to get home.
Hmm.
So logistically, probably not, because I'd rather be home with my kids. But retail is not like, oh my God, it's hell on earth, I could never go back, which I know some people are very adamant about. And ironically, like I was just talking about my husband leaving the manufacturing life with, full benefits,
Hmm.
fucking 18 some dollars an hour, 12-hour shift, half of the month off. He'd rather go work at his new job where he's going to be selling phones
Hmm.
for a significantly less amount of money, to go back to retail because he misses people,
Right.
and people. people, like
Yeah.
outgoing people, do really well in retail as long as you have a good team. And it really is about the team. And and I feel like if I could go back in time and go back to my Depot store, even as a lower level cashier, I would. But you can't pay me enough to go back to Wawa. So it really depends on the store and its vibe, and I can't go back to Dollar General,
Oh,
but I
see, that was
wouldn't
my
either.
that was my next question.
I legally
Which
am not allowed because of how we finished, right?
I
So
gotcha.
I'm not allowed to go back to Dollar General. um, I don't think you would catch me in a Walmart, like one of those big, corporate
Hmm.
goods. Like I like specialty retail.
I gotcha.
To put it honestly, like I don't like the convenience stores, or Dollar General or Walmart that has like a little bit of everything. Like Home
Hmm.
Depot, you get a lot of contractors, you got to get a lot of military, you get a lot of DIY moms. Like it's just a specialty. I
Hmm.
would go back to things like that, absolutely, but I don't think I would do the big corporate retail catch-all companies.
Yeah, one of my favorite
That's where the
jobs.
mess is.
Yeah, one of my favorite jobs I've ever had, and actually the favorite job, was actually when I worked for Gander, and it was
Yeah, you told me
because
that.
it was a specialty store. It was a gun shop
Mhm.
slash hunting and your outdoor stuff. Sorry, my kids
Mm.
are fussing like they don't want to
It's
go to
okay.
sleep, but that's all right. And I loved it because it was specialty. It wasn't like a necessity. It's the people who went there
Right.
because they had extra money and they wanted to do something with their time, and I loved
Right.
that. I thought it
Me
was
too.
awesome, and the fact that I
Yeah.
was able to do that and have fun. And I think you've got this from me from the first time you met me. I've always been a people person.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
like I've always been. I can't explain it, but I've always been a people person. Like I like people. I like talking to people. I mean, I have a fucking podcast up right now where I'm literally talking to people from anywhere between half an hour to an hour a piece. I mean,
Yeah.
I love people, and it's always
Mhm.
been this thing with me that I've never really been able to explain it, but it's just that when you when you just have an attraction to something, that's something that you like doing. Yes, you're gonna have your shitty days, and yes, you're gonna have the days that really drive you crazy. But at the end of
Mhm.
it, if it's something that makes you happy, I think you can stick through a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I definitely understand what you were saying there, and it's funny because even though any, I don't have any legal involvement with Dollar General or anything, but I would never ever go back again. There's nothing they
Yeah.
could do to get me to go back. For those of you out there listening, I actually worked for Dollar General. I was a store manager there, which you probably ascertained from this podcast, and um, I actually the only job I ever quit without leaving a notice because my district manager
Yeah.
got upset with me because I was working 6 days a week. So on my sixth day, instead of working my usual 12 or 14-hour shift, I took a short day and I went to prepare for my son's baby shower before my firstborn son was born.
Mhm.
And I got a nasty call from my district manager asking me why wasn't I at work and that I need to have my priorities in check.
Yeah, I believe it. I
Yeah,
didn't know exactly what happened, but I knew it had something to do with the district manager
yeah,
and your family. That's all I knew, but we never really chatted on the details.
yeah.
But yeah,
So,
you don't take care of your people, we're not going to take care of you. We want you in here. Why don't you come in here 7 days a week and all your other stores and push the fucking rolltainers yourself?
yep,
That's how I felt about her.
yeah.
You
She was not a very
know,
nice person.
no. And probably years and years of retail will do that to you. I've heard some stories about her personal life, which are very difficult to deal with on a daily basis.
Hmm.
I cannot imagine not being bitter.
Right,
So I know she has her reasons, but it's not our fault.
right.
And if you treat us like humans and team members, we will push that extra mile for you because you treat us with respect. That's how human nature goes. If you declare it and you point and you threaten, we ain't gonna do shit for you. Sorry.
Yeah,
Being a
100%.
bitch doesn't really get you anywhere in life with good people. You have to be a bitch to the bad ones to get them out. Sometimes you have to fire people just because you suck, get out. But generally speaking, help me help you.
Right.
You know,
And it really does suck because I'm not the kind of person, like I'm not going to just walk out without a notice. If I'm going to do something, I'm going to make sure I
yeah.
give notice. And that's
I
just
can't
so
believe you did that. When I caught wind of that, I was like, he just walked out. Oh, someone pissed him off. And
Yeah,
I didn't even know you that well, to be
yeah,
completely honest. I think I've talked to you more since we haven't worked with each other than when we did.
yeah. It's
And
it's interesting because, like I said, I went in and it was like I took, and then so I had that short day, had the
hmm
baby shower, had a great time, got that phone call, and then the next day got a second phone call, and I was so angry and frustrated because not only was I tired because I was working so much and
hmm
it was just so much going on at the store that I literally was like on the verge of crying on the phone with, my fiance who was pregnant at the time with our first kid,
hmm
and I'm like, this isn't good for me. Like I'm not happy. I was like, I'm getting frustrated and I'm getting mad at her for no reason. And it was just like a spark in my head. Like I hung up the phone. I got a phone call thinking that it was again someone calling to yell at me, but it was a job offer from another company that they got my resume that I had never taken down
nice,
off Indeed for some reason, and it was like they were offering me a job on the spot. So I was like, well, let me,
bitch, bye.
yeah, essentially, let me make some phone calls. So when I got home that day, I talked to my fiance and I told her about it, and she's like, if it'll make you happy, do it. So I walked in the
Yep,
next day. Um, my assistant
yep.
manager was working. I went in, told him, I said, well, it was good working with you. I put my keys on the counter.
Dropped your keys and left. Yep.
Well, before I left, I made sure I emailed my boss, and her boss's boss, and
Right.
explaining to them why I was leaving. Sat my keys on the counter, and I walked right out.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't blame it. And coming from the supportive spousal side of things, like my husband, like he went back to retail with a significant pay cut. Sometimes things are more important than money. Your mental health, your family life. No job is worth you losing your relationships and your sanity. No job. Like I really stress that to people. Like we're gonna go back to living a little bit tight, but it's worth it because I can have my husband's getting off at 2 in the morning. My baby would get up at 2:30 waiting for daddy to come home. I had not had sleep in the whole year that she'd been alive until this week, literally. I felt so rejuvenated just being able to get sleep because he's not on that schedule anymore.
Hmm.
And no money cannot buy that. No job is worth that headache. I was like, I'm so happy to have him back. We're working on our marriage. Things were falling apart when you can't communicate with each other because you're both too fucking exhausted because he lives at his job.
Right.
And they don't even treat him good. Their HR manager runs around and spreads rumors.
Yeah.
So it's just like quit, just leave. And so I'm glad your fiance was like, yeah, if that's what you need to do, you need to do. I need you back.
Most
You know.
definitely. 100%. And so that's honestly a great point to get into the last little snidbit of our podcast here, which is really just since you are no longer in retail and, but you've been there, you've seen the horrors, you've seen good things too, but you've seen
Mm-hmm.
like, people dealing with the Karens or people getting screamed
The
at and
kid.
right, or
Yes,
someone
definitely.
getting like screamed at and threatened over a goddamn coupon.
Oh yeah.
So if you could, if with everybody who is out there right now working in retail, especially with the pandemic going on, that are now these essential workers
Oh yeah.
that are doing everything to try to help people so that way, they could feed their family. And now that these people are going from someone who just stocks shelves to now they're like, their lives are on the line because they have, they're dealing in like a viral warfare environment. So like,
Mm-hmm.
and there's people that are like, they're afraid to go to work. So, like, if you
Mm-hmm.
could say anything to these people to really give them any kind of motivation to make it through the day, their shift, even if it's just that hour until their break, if you could say anything to these people to really just try to help them, what would you say?
I'm a put in perspective person.
Hmm.
It's kind of one of my go-tos, and y- you know, when I'm stressed at work, which honestly isn't terribly much. I had one horrible customer stalk me because the IRS didn't give her money immediately, and I had to call the police to get escorted to my car almost. Legit,
Jesus.
with Jackson Hewitt out here in the middle of fucking West Virginia. Um, Days like that, I'm like, it could be worse.
Hmm.
You used to literally shower between your two jobs in the sinks at your job. You are fine. It's okay. You get to go home, and now I get to go home and kiss that baby or kiss my husband who's home now because he's not at an awful job. So just put in perspective, like think about a time in your life where you felt lost. Today's not that bad. But if today's the day that you feel lost, there's other people in there too. You're not alone. You know, things do get better. I'm a weirdly spiritual person.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm a pretty strong Christian, but I'm very quiet about it.
Okay.
Because my theory is my relationship with God is with God, not you or a church
Right.
or a book or anything else. He knows me, he made me, he knows my mental. I don't have to explain it to anybody. So me personally, through this whole pandemic and everything, I'm just like, I know where I'm going. I know who I have to answer to. He tells me I'm okay, so I'm okay. I don't know if this is going to help everybody else. I know there's a lot of atheists and other options out there, but
Other options.
it gets other options. My mom was a Catholic and my father was Jewish, and I ended up Methodist. Who the hell knows, But
What are the dice going to tell me? Let's go
right,
Methodist.
my husband's atheist. I thought I was Wiccan. Who the fuck knows?
Right.
There's something out there for sure, in my opinion. And I'm not even like every page in the Bible is accurate type of Christian. My church will be like, oh my God, but it is what it is.
Right.
But anyway, I'm always just put in perspective. Try and realize your place on this earth. What deep inside you gives you comfort, whatever it may be. Even if it's just yourself, you don't believe in no higher power. It's just you or your spouse or your children, whatever it may be. Just hang on to that reason. The reason you're there in the first place.
Wow.
That's kind of how I see it.
No, definitely. There's no better. I mean, not like trying to just say to agree with you, but I mean, for me, there's nothing more that keeps me going than my family. I
Mhm.
gratefully, thank God, my wife started working again yesterday because her down here in Texas, we're starting to
Mhm.
open up. So she was able to finally go back to work yesterday. But I mean, for the last month and
Mhm.
a half, there were so many people applying for stuff. Like my wife didn't get any unemployment, and I was the only one working. So it doesn't
Yeah.
matter, how the hours I'm putting in or, what's the days looking like or how frustrated I am. I know I have my wife and my two kids at home that I have to care for, that I've got to feed, that
Mhm.
I've got to provide. I love coming home from work, and as soon as I put my keys in the door and I go to open it, my oldest, he goes, "Daddy."
Daddy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
100%. And
It's
that
worth
that
it.
makes my day so much better. And to be able to come home, granted right now I have to like throw my clothes in the washing machine and wash my hands and sanitize up a little bit, but I give my wife a kiss,
Mhm.
I hold my children, and it's definitely something that helps me because I know at the end of
Mhm.
the day they are absolutely dependent on me.
Absolutely. Yeah. You got to remember why you're there in the first place. And if that reason, whatever it may be, is that important to you, then it's got to be important enough to get you through the rest of the day, even with this pandemic. But if you think about it, this has killed just as much as any other sickness. It's just the fact of how contagious it is what's scary.
Right.
You know, um, I haven't like stuck my head in the sand like an ostrich and like ignored everything, but I'm not necessarily taking every heated precaution that is presented to me either.
I gotcha.
But that does have a lot to do with my faith.
Hmm.
I'm just like, if God's going to take me, it's for cancer, for corona, whatever He feels, But working with the veterans, most of the VFW are like over 60 years old.
Yeah.
So that's where my concern is. So I want to make sure when I go into the office, I'm not necessarily, bringing anything. So I do more precautions for, hand washing and sanitizing and things like that because the gentleman I share the office with is, 70 some years old. So, I'm very much taking precaution at work because that's where it'll probably be worse in my life, at least the impact. I'm not an essential worker other than that, you know. So
No, 100%. And to be honest, I couldn't agree with you know, it's definitely a sombering experience, and
oh yeah.
it's definitely awesome to be able to have that ability to be able to have the outlook that we will get through this and that
Yeah.
this isn't the end. So Erica, I
Yeah.
definitely want to thank you so much for being on the show. It's been fantastic. It was a lot of fun. It's hard to
Yeah,
believe
thank you.
sometimes you get started talking and you look down at the timer and it's right now we're almost at 50 minutes and it's like,
Oh,
gee.
I'm sorry. I'm a chatty Cathy.
No, 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 no. It's perfectly okay. Like it just gets, sometimes you just get into it and you just want to keep going, and that's fine. And I love that. So I'm very grateful to have you on the show, and I had a lot of fun, and hopefully I can get you back on at some point.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
it's definitely, been an amazing episode. So to everybody out there listening, thank you again, once again, for choosing us and for coming in and listening. We are at, as of last, before I recorded this, we were at 40 subscribers. We're at 10 away from my goal of 50. So once we hit 50, whoever the
Nice.
50th is getting a $10 Amazon gift card from me. So please make sure you guys are liking and subscribing. And again, this has been Retail Shenanigans episode 13.